Hello, I'm Dr. Bernstein. Welcome to Bernstein Test Prep. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the exam that you have to take and how you can best prepare for that exam. The information that I'm about to share with you is going to be particularly valuable towards achieving that goal. This is an extremely important competitive law enforcement promotional exam. Many people will take it, but only those with the best scores will be promoted. Over the last 30 years, it's been the Bernstein students that have always gotten the best results. That's because we have the best instructors, the best materials, which are easy to follow and yours to keep. We also offer very convenient times and locations for all of our classes. And we provide the best all-around training to get you fully prepared for your exam. It's a new test now, and at Bernstein Test Prep, we prepare you for the new test, not the old one. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about that new test that you're going to have to take and how you can best prepare for it. Every year, there's changes in the exam. Now, I track these changes better than anybody else. In the class, we're going to go through all these new changes very thoroughly. Now, before I talk to you about this test that you're going to be taking, let me take a minute to tell you a little bit about myself and what we offer here at Bernstein Test Prep. I've been operating Bernstein Test Prep, which is a nationwide test preparation company, for the past 30 years. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and one of the things that a psychologist does is that they develop exams just like the one that you're going to be taking. However, I didn't start off as Dr. Bernstein. I started off as a police officer working on the street. I've also worked as a detective, and I've worked as a supervisor. I've successfully trained more than 100,000 people from all around the country for their exams. What I'm about to tell you is extremely important. It could make the difference in getting the promotion that you want. You're going to want to pay close attention to what I'm about to say. People usually fail or get low scores due to not being properly trained for the different sections of the exam. That simply comes down to people not being fully prepared on test day. And most of you know this opportunity to take this exam only comes up every few years. So every extra question you get right can potentially push you up higher on the list. We know what that means ultimately translates potentially into what? Dollars. Let me tell you the latest information on the Sheriff's Promotional Exam. Now, the primary areas that the New Jersey Civil Service Commission has tested on the new exam are as follows. Now, management and supervision is going to be tested at every rank: sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. Now, in the multiple choice test, which everybody has to take, at least the first part for lieutenant and captain's candidates is a multiple choice test, management supervision textbook. Now, in the textbook, there are certain chapters that are what we refer to as high-value chapters. Those high-value chapters we will review in much more detail because that's where the money is. So we'll go into those chapters and we'll look at and spend more time in those chapters where we believe civil service will pull the test questions from. Now, after doing this for more than 30 years, my job is to go into the textbook, figure it out, which specific areas will be on the exam, and I do that each and every year, and I'm always on point. So we're going to do that this year as well. Interpersonal relations is the next section that is on everybody's exam. Now, interpersonal relations also hooks to the textbook by and large. It's another area that comes up, and within interpersonal relations, we look at performance issues that subordinates have from time to time and how you deal with that subordinate who has a performance issue. We see citizen complaints and how you deal with that citizen complaining. So these are areas that link back to the textbook and areas that you should be very familiar with because they're frequently tested. Critical thinking is another dimension that civil service measures. And in critical thinking, oftentimes what they have done in the past is provide you with some type of sample policy or procedure, some made-up policy or procedure from a sheriff's department, and they'll grab that policy or procedure and ask you specific test questions, multiple choice test questions about that policy or procedure. So there is a reading comprehension component to it, but sometimes they make up a fairly tricky policy or procedure to try to see if you're able to discern what the correct answer is. We'll practice with those, we'll review you on those, we'll make sure you see enough of them to get comfortable with them. Decision-making, problem-solving, additional areas that come up on the exam. Now, you can always expect at every level, sergeant, lieutenant, and captain, a host of problems, a host of different types of situations, and to a certain extent, we could really refer to this as situational judgment. So they provide you with some type of situation, whether it's an escape, a use of force incident, some incident in the courthouse, whatever it may be. Critical incidents oftentimes come up. It's a problem, and how are you going to handle and deal with that particular problem? Now, there's many ways to deal with it. There could be different correct answers, but in civil service land, there's only going to be one correct answer, and they call it the most correct answer. We're going to show you how to figure that out and make sure that you have enough practice with those kinds of scenarios and situations. Now, additional areas that have been hit, some new to the sheriff's promotional exams, have been Attorney General guidelines. This is an area where we spend 2 full days on the Attorney General guidelines because there's dozens and dozens and dozens of Attorney General guidelines. Okay, you could look at 1,000 pages of Attorney General guidelines. What we do is we break it down from multiple volumes all the way down to what do you really need? What do you really need for the test? So we developed our own Attorney General guidelines workbook to make sure that when we review that, these are the areas that have the highest probability of coming up on your exam. We're not taking the Law Enforcement Handbook, volume 1, 2, 3, thousands of pages, and giving them to you. We're breaking down everything on the Attorney General guidelines in regards to the AG website, pulling out the important stuff and making sure you get that important stuff. Because Attorney General guidelines questions will be on this year's exam. Same thing with Criminal Code 2C. Criminal Code 2C is like this. We put a workbook together to break it down for you, to make it easier to understand, and we pull out those 2C statutes that we feel have the highest probability of appearing on your exam. Now, we break that down to our own job analysis, and we pull out those 2C areas that we know have either high frequency, they come up regularly on the job, or it's of critical importance for a supervisor to respond to that type of situation, that 2C related situation. So we look at that, we look at AG, and we look at those that way to make sure that we figure it out. And we do, each and every year. Now, AG guidelines has been tested on the police side for the last 30 years. They've had Attorney General guidelines. Same thing with 2C. Same thing with arrest, search, and seizure, another area that comes up on the exam. Now, they've indicated, Civil Service has indicated that arrest, search, and seizure will be on the lieutenant's and captain's exam, specifically. That doesn't mean they couldn't ask something for sergeant, but they're targeting lieutenant and captain for arrest, search, and seizure. So we pull out those cases that we like, that we feel have the highest probability of appearing on the exam. And that's case law. So case law will most certainly be on the lieutenant's and captain's exam. Another area on the sergeant's exam that is exclusive to the sergeant's exam is report review. Report writing and review is how it's referred to. And here, they'll provide you typically at the sergeant's level with documents that have grammar, spelling, punctuation issues, not really new to the sheriff's promotional exams. It's been on prior exams before, but it is an area that guys and ladies have a fair amount of difficulty with. So we put together some really tight information, some stuff that will really help you, that will make it easier for you to break down the test questions on the day of the exam. We'll practice you, review you on it, and your score will definitely go up in that particular area. Now, all of that encompasses part one of the exam for sergeant, lieutenant, and captain, written multiple choice test. Those different areas that I identified that were rank specific for part one, the written multiple choice test. And that's all sergeant's candidates have. Lieutenants and captain's candidates have a part two, or a written assessment component. Now, this is an extremely important area. And sergeant's candidates should pay attention because someday you guys and ladies are going to be taking a lieutenant's exam or a captain's exam. You should pay attention also. And this is an area where candidates are given a series of problems, different types of situations, problems, and questions to answer. Fortunately, for the Bernstein students who come to our program, we have been doing this for 30 years. For 30 years, all around the country. It's used in Miami. It's used in Chicago. It was used in New Jersey extensively for a while, the assessment component. So we're very, very familiar with the kinds of assessment exercises that you need to be familiar with as well. Now, when this test was given, our guys and ladies had the highest scores in the state on the different components of this exam. Written multiple choice test, written assessment test. It was the Bernstein students that had the highest scores in the state. Those that come to our training, without question, are going to see their scores go up in all of these particular areas. Now, when you take a Bernstein class, you're going to learn the strategy to score high on all the different sections on your exam. You're going to be reviewed on all of the books and materials that are relevant for your test, whatever they may be. You're going to receive regular quizzes and practice test questions at the Bernstein Online Learning Center. You'll have constant access to that, 24 hours. You'll also get an audio version of the most highly testable topics, as well as electronic flashcards. You'll be able to look at these flashcards on your phone, whenever you want, wherever you are. Finally, you have access to me, Dr. Bernstein. Any questions you have leading up to your exam, you can email our office and we will always get back to you. After attending our training, I can assure you that you'll be fully prepared for all the different sections of your exam. We're the only test preparation company with proven long-term results. One thing I can assure you of is when the final list comes out, it's going to be the Bernstein students that are at the top of the list. You don't want to compete with a Bernstein student. You want to be one. You can sign up on our website. It's bernsteintestprep.com. Our classes usually sell out. Sign up now to guarantee yourself a seat. I assure you, if you come to a Bernstein class, your score on your exam will definitely go up. Best of luck to you on your exam.